All right. So I have three articles for you today. Um, let's just start with the first one. Trump administration MAHA health report cited non-existent studies because obviously if people read a report, they're just going to mindlessly assume that, oh, this must be legit because sources were cited, instead of looking into said sources and finding out they don't exist. This is something I've encountered, not necessarily with studies, but when asked to back up a claim from someone who can't, because what they're claiming is bullshit, they will either post a link completely misunderstanding what that link is, and that's the generous interpretation, or simply just posting a link in hopes that you don't actually read the article and find out that they are full of shit because they know that what they posted was bullshit, and they just think that they can randomly post something in hopes that you won't notice it's bullshit. That you'll just be like, oh, they posted a source, so he must be telling the truth. As opposed to, expecting people to actually read. So, anyway, moving on. A highly publicized U.S. government report on the health of American children referenced scientific studies that did not exist among citations to support its conclusions in what the White House said were formatting issues on Thursday. Citing non existent sources is not a formatting issue. The report, produced by the Make America Healthy Again Commission, named after the slogan aligned with Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., was released last week. The 14-member commission included Kennedy, Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins, because she's never lied before in her life, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, and Food and Drug Administration head Martin Makary, among others. Yeah, that's a brain trust right there. Oh, and I forgot this article is from Reuters. It said processed foods, chemicals, stress, and overprescription of medications and vaccines may be factors behind chronic illness in American children, citing some 500 research studies, including those that did not exist as evidence. Okay, so let's just start with that. Processed food. Obviously, you shouldn't eat only processed food. You should, eat fresh food as well, because there are chemicals in processed food that, you need more nutrients than that, and there are probably some bad things in processed food. That's fine. Okay, I can see that as being legit. Chemicals, obviously. Depends on the chemical. Yes, that can cause illness. Stress, that can cause illness. Overprescription medications. Yes, that could work. Now, how much of an epidemic that is, I do not know. But yes, overprescriptions will cause harm. Vaccines. No vaccine has been shown to cause illness. I mean, there are people who are allergic to certain vaccines, which is why they generally don't get vaccinated, but depends on the severity of the allergy. But that's not a chronic illness. Um, I You can make a case for almost all of those things except for vaccines. Not vaccines. Digital news outlet Notice reported the citation errors on Thursday. It found 7 studies listed in the report's footnotes that did not exist, along with broken links and misstated conclusions, raising questions over whether the report had relied on artificial intelligence. Actually, I think they admitted that they did. I might be wrong. Reuters independently confirmed 2 of the erroneous citations. White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt told reporters that any citation errors were due to formatting issues. Does she know what words mean? Because that's not a formatting issue. The government said it posted a corrected version of the report later on Thursday without providing details on how the mistakes had occurred. Or which ones were corrected. I mean, come on. The substance of the MAHA report remains the same, a historic and transformative assessment by the federal government to understand the chronic disease epidemic afflicting our nation's children, the Department of Health and Human Services said. What chronic disease epidemic are we talking about? Is he talking about autism by any chance? Because he did say that we're going to get to the bottom of what's causing autism, as if it's this horrible epidemic, like, I don't know, like the measles outbreak that's currently going on. Which we know why it's spreading, because dipshits are not vaccinating their kids. So, yeah. Kennedy has spent decades sowing doubt about the safety of vaccines, which have long been backed by a scientific consensus on their effectiveness for controlling disease outbreaks, raising concerns within the scientific and medical communities over the policies he would pursue as health secretary. Since taking the role, he has fired thousands of workers at federal health agencies and cut billions of dollars from U.S. biomedical research spending. Nobody has ever accused RFK Jr. of academic rigor, said Marion Nestle, a professor emerita of nutrition, food studies, and public health at New York University. The speed of the MAHA report suggests they could not have been vetted carefully and must have been whisked through standard clearance procedures. The citation problem suggests a reliance on AI. AI-generated fictions known as hallucinations have also cropped up in court filings and landed attorneys in hot water ever since ChatGPT and other generative AI programs became widely available more than 2 years ago. God, it's been 2 years already? Catherine Keyes, an epidemiology professor at Columbia University Mailman School of Public Health, was cited in the MAHA report as the author of Changes in Mental Health and Substance Use Among U.S. Adolescents During the COVID-19 Pandemic, which the report said was published in the medical journal JAMA Pediatrics. And for those who don't know what JAMA is, it's the Journal of the American Medical Association. She said that neither she nor the named co-authors of the paper had written it. It does make me concerned, given that citation practices are an important part of conducting and reporting rigorous science, she said. Psychiatry professor Robert L. Findling did not author the article cited in the report as direct-to-consumer advertising of psychotropic medications for youth, a growing concern. In the Journal of Child and Adolescent Psychopharmacology, according to a spokesperson for Virginia Commonwealth University, where Findling is a professor. The studies attributed to Findling and Keyes no longer appear in the MAHA report on the White House website as of Thursday evening. All right, so this was a short article. And, I mean, like I said, that tells you everything you need to know about this administration. They don't care about actual facts. They just want to push a narrative. Um I mean, I think I made this report yesterday of Robert F. Kennedy saying about gender affirming care, don't listen to the science. Listen to what the administration wants. And this was to the CDC. So if you're going to say that, you basically lost all credibility, and nobody needs to listen to you because you have admitted that you just want to push an agenda rather than care about actual facts. So that should already make people wary about this report and consider it bullshit and just toss it aside, because he's already proven his agenda is more important than facts. And this just makes it even worse. Making up citations just so he can hopefully prove a point. Now, whether the citations that were removed have corresponding points in the article, in the report that was also removed, because it could be a case of the kid who's like, oh, I need so many sources, but so I need to make shit up because I only have so many sources and I need to fill out this bibliography. And so they just start making shit up. It's like, oh, I will say that this was cited, and never actually point to where in the paper it actually exists. And so I wonder how many of these citations which made it into the bibliography actually showed up, even if they were bullshit quotes, but showed up in the paper claiming to be from this paper. So yeah, they can possibly, they didn't actually reference it within the report and just made up an entire bibliography of shit that doesn't exist. Simply because they are like, okay, we're going to just keep adding to this. Now, if they used AI could have done that easily. But something tells me that they would have been fine with it. And the only reason they removed it is because they were caught. Because if they actually cared about vigorous science, they wouldn't need AI. They would do the work themselves. But none of the people who are a part of this report know the first thing about rigorous science, because they just want to easily just slap their name on something that sounds good and is going to push their agenda. Okay. Now, let's go to a article which can be best described, actions have consequences. So, law firms that cave to Trump suddenly lose a lot of big business. And this is from the New Republic. Remember all those law firms that struck a deal with Trump? Some major companies are ditching them. And all I can say is good. I knew that this was going to happen from the very beginning, once they started caving. Not just because there are law firms that aren't caving and Trump is not doing well in court as usual, but also because you're freaking lawyers. It is your job to fight someone who is breaking the law. That is your whole freaking job. And so to just roll over and play dead. That's basically telling people, why should I trust these lawyers, this law firm, if this is how they act? They're not going to defend me. How can I feel that they're going to vigorously defend me if they're not even going to defend themselves? So, at least 11 large companies, including Morgan Stanley, Microsoft, and Oracle, are cutting ties with law firms that caved to President Trump's threats of political retribution, according to the Wall Street Journal. General counsels for multiple companies told the Journal that the law firm's willingness to cut deals with the president rather than stand up for themselves greatly eroded their confidence in the ability of those firms to represent them in court or in high-pressure negotiations. And that's a major duh. I mean, they didn't even try to fight Trump. They were just like, oh shit, the president is coming after us. We need to hide. No, that's just a no. Massive law firms that work on lucrative contracts like Paul, Weiss, Kirkland, and Ellis, and others, struck deals with the Trump administration after he aimed 6 executive orders at them, removing clearances, building access, and government contracts from firms he thought were attacking him. The law firms capitulated, offering billions of pro bono work in the Trump administration, allegedly in the name of protecting their clients and their contracts. And the irony is that their very actions were a self-fulfilling prophecy, because their very actions caused the very outcome that they claimed they were trying to prevent. But multiple lawyers at each firm think that their leadership should have put up a tougher fight. One staffer told the Journal she felt physically ill upon hearing of Paul Weiss's sellout to Trump. Some younger lawyers have even quit over these deals, as one associate at Simpson Thacher said in his exit email that he would not sleepwalk toward authoritarianism. Well, at least somebody has a spine. The firms that decided to strike back did end up losing clients, but kept some of their principles intact. Jenner and Block declared in a statement that folding to the Trump administration would require compromising our ability to zealously advocate for all our clients and capitulating to unconstitutional government coercion, which is simply not in our DNA. You know, it's, they probably did end up losing some clients, but I wonder how many are going to flock to them. So yeah, this was also a very short article, but still a very good outcome, because yeah, those law firms should get consequences for rolling over. Because again, it's your freaking job to stand up to lawlessness. It is not your job to capitulate. I mean, I know that Trump can be scary and that, you know, things might go a certain way, but you can't assume that. It's still early, and let's face it, nothing good ever happens to people who capitulate, because the bully's just going to want more and more and more. And then, of course, there's the fact that there are law firms who haven't capitulated and are doing well in court. And like I said, those that have lost clients, I'm sure they're going to gain a bunch as well, because you want someone who's willing to fight, even if it's ultimately a losing battle. You want someone who's going to fight for their principles and not just be like, oh, well. Okay, so this one just came into my attention. U.S. man charged for framing immigrant in fake plot to kill Trump. Which Kristi Noem has been parading for days about how this is why we need tougher, we need to be tougher on illegal immigrants because look at all this crap. And it turns out it was bullshit. So, and he said from the very beginning he was being framed. All right. Demetric Scott admitted he wrote letters in the name of Ramon Morales Reyes, who he was charged with assaulting. Really great guy. Okay, and this is from The Guardian. Prosecutors in Milwaukee have charged a man with 4 felonies for attempting to frame an undocumented immigrant he is accused of assaulting by sending forged letters in the immigrant's name with a threat to kill Donald Trump. The handwritten, forged letters were mailed to Wisconsin's Attorney General, Milwaukee Police, and U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, aka ICE. The story received a flood of media attention and was highlighted by the White House and Trump's allies, but appears to have been a hoax. WISN-TV, an ABC affiliate in Milwaukee, reported on Monday that a criminal complaint alleges Demetric Scott admitted to investigators he wrote the letters threatening to kill the president in the name of Ramon Morales Reyes, whom he was previously charged with assaulting. So, obviously, he has it out for this guy. I wonder if we're going to find out why. Among those who fell for the hoax were Kristi Noem, the Homeland Security Secretary, who released a statement praising immigration officers for arresting Morales Reyes on May 22nd, one day after the forged letter was received by an ICE field intelligence officer. You know, claiming that Kristi Noem fell for a hoax is a very low bar for hoaxes. I mean, I bet you she sends money to Nigerian princes. She is that dumb. Thanks to our ICE officers, this illegal alien who threatened to assassinate President Trump is behind bars, Noem said in a press release. Her department also released to news agencies an image of the handwritten note in light blue ink, expressing anger over Trump's deportations and threatening to shoot him in the head with a rifle at a rally, which he doesn't do anymore. Noem also shared the letter on X along with a photo of Morales Reyes, and the White House also shared it on social media accounts. We are tired of this president messing with us Mexicans. We have done more for this country than you white people. You have been deporting my family, and I think it is time Donald J. Trump get what he has coming to him. And people actually believe that? Jesus Christ, this is Nigerian prince level shit. I will self-deport myself back to Mexico, but not before I use my 30-yard 6 to shoot your precious president in the head. I will see him at one of his big rallies. Like I said, you read that and it's an obvious bullshit. How the hell? I mean, I can understand why Kristi Noem believed it, because racism, along with not a working brain cell in her head. But the claims soon began to unravel. Last week, one of Morales Reyes' children told an immigrant rights group that he could not have written the letters since he cannot read or write in Spanish, let alone English. Oh, wow, that is a plot twist. First off, I did think that it was going to be considered too good English for an undocumented, but then I realized a lot of people who question their abilities to write in English actually write in English better than a lot of Americans who, you know, assume that people can read and understand what they write. As part of the investigation, officials asked Morales Reyes for a handwriting sample and concluded his handwriting and the threatening letter didn't match and that the threat was not credible, a source familiar with the investigation told the Associated Press. Scott is currently in Milwaukee County Jail, charged with armed robbery and aggravated battery. Prosecutors said Morales Reyes is the victim in that case. He was allegedly assaulted in September 2023 with a box cutter during an attempted theft of his bike. As the case prepared to go to trial, ICE this month received the letter threatening to assassinate Trump. So I guess this dipshit thought that he would be able to skate by framing this guy for trying to assassinate the president? Wow, this guy's IQ is totally 2020. Wow, wow, wow. According to a transcript of a phone call prosecutors say Scott made while awaiting trial for assaulting Morales Reyes, Scott framed Morales Reyes to keep him from testifying against him. If he gets picked up by ICE, Scott allegedly said in the call, there won't be a jury trial, so they will probably dismiss it that day. That's my plan. You know, if he actually put that initiative into doing something fucking productive, he might actually make something of himself. What the hell? Morales Reyes works as a dishwasher in Milwaukee, where he lives with his wife and 3 children. He had recently applied for a U visa, which is carved out for people in the country illegally who become victims of serious crimes, according to his attorney. Okay, that's a very strange visa, but okay. Morales Reyes remains in ICE detention at a facility in Juneau, Wisconsin. Why? Why is he still... Oh, wait. Never mind, I forgot what administration we're dealing with. Okay, so that is the end of that article. Surprise, 3 very, very short articles. So anyway, still not great for this guy who's probably going to be deported, if he's lucky, back to Mexico. And like I said, that's if he's lucky. This administration seems way too excited to send people to a gulag. So no, we can't assume anything. Because he's still in nice custody. But at least they caught the real culprit. And he is a real winner. But the fact that it took his children to say he couldn't have written this because he can't write. You know, he's illiterate. Even in Spanish. So that nobody read that letter and thought, this sounds like someone, trying to write in a way they think undocumented people write, or maybe he's just that bad of a writer anyway. But either way, it did not sound legit. What the hell? So anyway, I have to go through that letter again because that just... Let me see this again. Yeah, we have done more for this country than you white people. That I really, I don't have a picture of this Demetric Scott, but because that sounds horribly racist. So I don't know if he's a black person who happens to be racist, or he's a white person who just assumes that all Mexicans are racist because he's fucking racist. Either way, racism is a thing in this story. Let's see. Yeah, this is too grammatically correct. My 30-yard 6? What? The only misspelling I see is rallies. And I think that's because the guy is an absolute dipshit and not because he was trying to make typos just for, to make it look more authentic. Yeah, way too grammatically correct, especially for someone who's illiterate. Okay, so that is all I have for this video. And with that, I will see you guys in the next one.